Jimmy de Anda was the local counsel for the labor union who had who had the resources, money, takes money to file lawsuits against the school district. So I'm here, and it's history all over the place. Dr. Hector had begun the school discrimination cases because that's how before there was Felix Longoria, there was Minerva Delgado, and Mexicans used to go to Mexican schools. Mexican, can you understand Mexican?
Segregated schools.
Yes, shacks. No había excusados. There was no toilets. There was no running water. And so obviously materials, forget that. Books, I mean, you got to learn how to read before we could get educated. So there was almost no materials, and so Dr. Hector began agitating for the improvement of the Mexican schools, and we didn't have the wherewithal to get into the civil rights area, into the desegregation of the Mexican schools. There's a celebrated case in California which was the precursor for Brown versus Board of Education. It was the Hispanics who started it, and it was Thurgood Marshall who came in on the shoulders of that California case to go into the Brown versus Board of Education. And so we had such giants as Gus Garcia, who brilliant. Carlos Cadena, who did most of the writing for those early civil rights cases, to break down the barriers on education. Hernandez came in and was further an impetus, further a push to get us as Hispanics, as Mexican Americans, identified as a separate group. Because if you ask ask anybody, for that example, Hispanics or Mexicans, we're white. There's blacks, there's red, and there's yellow.
But we weren't treated white.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we were grouped in this thing. You got your schools, everything's fine. But we're not getting educated. We're dropping out. And we're not getting the facilities in order to get an education. And then we have a significant dropout rate as we speak. But that's another issue and another story. And so a combination of those school desegregation cases, and here comes Hernandez to identify Hispanics as an identifiable group who has the protection of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Boom, the door opens. And now we can take our cases. I mean, you can't go further than the United States Supreme Court, who in its ruling identified as a separate ethnic group who was being discriminated and deserved the protection of the federal Constitution.
That sounds great, but what a resistance here locally, having to go through. I mean, you painted a broad stroke here, and so es muy bonito. I mean, it sounded great, but there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into that.
Let me tell you, there was an organization here called the Concerned Neighbors. I don't know if in your studies or when you.
Why am I getting butterflies with the Concerned Neighbors? Why? Was it a bunch of Mexicanos getting together at a Tupperware party? Or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The Concerned Neighbors was a group of people.
Burn, baby, burn, huh?
No. Well, here comes Judge Woodrow Seals.
Oh boy, here we go.
Desegregation case. Chris Dixie was the lead counsel. Jimmy de Anda was the second counsel. And who had, of course, I've already established his credentials, and so we're in there knocking heads in the courtroom with the Honorable Judge Woodrow Seals, U.S. District Judge from Houston, to hear the case, and he issued and while this case is it's being tried, there's meetings. Let me tell you, the Gringos or the Anglos take a page out of our book. They're having the meetings in the Coliseum. Packed houses. I mean, packed houses.
What were all the meetings for?
To bring the publicity and to show the resistance. You ain't gonna bust my baby. he ain't going to the west side for no way, nowhere, no.
Oh, okay, so would it have brought? Was that a myth, or were they actually thinking of sending whites to the west side?
It was one of the remedies that was available to the courts at that time.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And so you had a segregated school over here. The expressway was the Rubicon. That was the dividing line. And
that's almost Roman, the Rubicon.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, we're crossing across.
That's right.
The Roman soldiers were crossing.
Right. You shall not cross.
Yes.
And so, as a compromise, a little earlier,
not much has changed.
Not much. Moody High School was created as a compromise because they wanted to put Moody on the other side.
Yeah, but 99% are Mexicanos that go to Moody now. Not much has changed.
Not much has changed.
The Rubicon exists. Cross town. I like to go to Home Depot on the west side, though, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I feel more comfortable. I don't know why.
And so one of the methodologies that the federal courts were fashioning remedies to ease the desegregation was busing, cross busing. And that little Johnny with the güerito with the freckles was not going to go to Moody or Miller.
Well, do you blame him? I mean, all these Mexicanos are tired of being treated. There he is. Let's, where's your lunch money, Johnny?
Not only that, there were substandard schools. They wouldn't get an education.
The G light bulb is turned on.
Sure. They were substandard schools. They didn't have the facilities and so forth. They're building these high schools. Here comes Ray and Carroll and then King. And when they built, when Moody was in this process of gestation, I was just a little before I got here. And the plan was to put it on the other side of the Rubicon.
Go Trojans.
Yeah, go Trojans. And they said no. It has to stay on this side. And eventually it was built, but they offered to throw more bricks and more.
And they were actually meeting in the Coliseum and packed too. Packed to the gills. And were you guys welcome to the what was it, the Coliseum of Neighbors, or what was it called? They would throw Christians in there and lions and everybody.
It was the Concerned Neighbors.
Okay, Concerned Neighbors.
One of the leaders, Marsha Darlington, who eventually moved to Portland because she didn't want to be part of the Corpus Christi. School board member left Corpus Christi.
Sort of like the Robstown to Calallen migration. Correct.
Yeah. And so it was when I got here, the pot was boiling.
And you're the guy to stir the pot a little bit.
Well,
man. You know it.
Kind of the outside looking in, but I'm carrying Jimmy de Anda's books, and I'm sitting here. I had employment as an assistant city attorney, so of course I couldn't necessarily participate very actively, but I was in on the meetings with Paul Montemayor, who was the leader of the steelworkers, who that's the group that was funding the lawsuit.
Well, we got about a minute left, on this tack. I mean, take it away. The floor is yours. I mean, what message on all of this we've talked about? The time has flown by. We need about 4-hour document. We're going to invite you like 4 more times.
We'll do that.
But I mean, this history is so rich. Tell us a little bit about, to sum up the experience, and we'll come back to this when we come back after the break. But
I cannot tell you how big a giant Dr. Hector was. I cannot begin to explain to you the experience that I had being part of his life from 1968 until his passing. We were almost in constant contact on a daily basis. Traveled all over South Texas and in the West and so forth, and it was a very rich experience. A wonderful man, a great humanitarian, and a hero.
Well, when we come back, we're listening to and watching Mr. Amador Garcia. He was not only one of the pioneering lawyers here in the Corpus Christi area, but also fought alongside Dr. Hector for equal rights, using that window of opportunity through education. And we have to remember Dr. Hector and men like Amador Garcia, who have made it great for all of us and made more opportunities. When we come back, we're going to delve more into this. We're going to be talking more. And no, we're not going to go away. We're going to be not politically correct. I mean, those days are over. 8 years of silence. We're going to talk about the Mexican-American experience. If the African-Americans can talk, we can too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll be back after these messages.